Today, I'm Malika Andrews. We start with breaking news out of Phoenix. Suns majority owner Robert Sarver released a statement today saying he's beginning the process of selling both the Phoenix Suns and the Mercury. Now, remember, this comes 1 week after the findings of an independent investigation that was prompted by ESPN reporter Baxter Holmes reporting into the Suns' workplace culture. Now, Commissioner Adam Silver had suspended Sarver for 1 year, and since then, the pressure has mounted from players and the NBPA, and jersey patch sponsor PayPal announced it would not renew its partnership with the team. Now, Sarver wrote today in part, "As a man of faith, I believe in atonement and the path to forgiveness. I expected that the commissioner's 1-year suspension would provide the time for me to focus, make amends, and remove my personal controversy from the team that I and so many fans love. But in our current unforgiving climate, it has become painfully clear that is no longer possible. That whatever good I have done or could still do is outweighed by things I have said in the past. And for those reasons, I'm beginning the process of seeking buyers for the Suns and Mercury. I do not want to be a distraction to these two teams and the fine people who work so hard to bring the joy and excitement of basketball fans around the world. I want what's best for the organizations, the players, the employees, the fans, the community, my fellow owners, the NBA, and the WNBA. This is the best course of action for everyone." I'm joined now by Baxter Holmes, Zach Lowe, Ramona Shelburne, and Richard Jefferson. And I just want to start with this statement. We read just a part of what Robert Sarver wrote. And Zach, I want to start with you here. What was your reaction to the totality of his words here?
Well, the statement is embarrassing and pathetic. It talks about our current unforgiving climate, that it makes it no longer possible, as if outside forces are the reason this is happening. And so everyone's going to point to the whining about cancel culture and all this. And that's what it is. It's whining. It's pathetic. I want to point to his use of the repeated use of words and things I said. Words that I deeply regret overshadow 2 decades of building, blah, blah, blah. In our unforgiving climate, it's unforgiving. Whatever good I've done is outweighed by things I have said. He's trying to make it sound like these are just words that he put out into the air. And when you're it's a fundamental misunderstanding of his power and of power dynamics. When you're the boss, when you control people's jobs, and you say to a woman, your pregnancy could disadvantage your career. Why do all the women around here cry so much? Your body is good. Your body's not good. Oh, look at that Suns dancer. Her body's great. Those are not just words when you're Robert Sarver. Those are borderline actions. Those cause harm and suffering to people in the workplace, harm and suffering to people's careers. It's not just words that go out into the air. They are almost actions when you consider the power dynamics. And for him to just come out and say, well, I just said this stuff. They're just words. They're just words that go out into the air. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of what he did and of the power dynamics. And the statement is a pathetic and in that sense, a good coda to this whole thing.
Well, there were what he is classifying as words, but there were also actions. This was not just the report was not just instances of things he said. There were things that he did as well. Richard, what's your reaction to this?
Why is everyone so serious? This is amazing. He's gone. This is awesome. I think this is the best thing that could happen to this league. And let me say this. As a Phoenix person, and everybody on this panel, and I've always represented the Phoenix very, very heavily. Do you know what else I am? I'm a University of Arizona person. Do you know where Sarver went to school? University of Arizona. I have sat next to him on a plane. Lute Olson, my grandfather, is one of the people that helped get this man into this league. All of those things said, he is a part of a fraternity and a family that I belong to, and I could not be happier to see that man walking out of the door. Why? Because even though I did not have these experiences, I had close friends that did. I had people that were around this organization inside of the Phoenix Suns and the Mercury organization that did. And so for me, even though these weren't my experiences, I am so happy that this man is gone. He does not belong in this league. He doesn't belong around people in this league. And so for me today, this is a joyous occasion. I'm about to put a bid on the Suns. I'm probably going to fall a few dollars short, but I'm definitely putting in a bid. I'm doing something, but I'm glad he's gone, and I can't wait for the next person.
Well, I know that, Baxter, you've been speaking to some folks within the organization. Do they share Richard's sentiment? What are folks saying to you?
Yeah, I want to read. This is from a current staffer. To be honest, it just felt like justice. Like we can finally heal And no, we won't be working under that type of leadership. I swear there will be tears when senior executives will be held accountable, referring to the senior executives, not on the basketball side, that individuals internally felt were culpable for the kind of culture and misconduct that took place inside the organization. A high-level executive at the Suns also told me of Robert's decision. It's the right thing to do. I will also say there is a tremendous amount of shock and disbelief if you consider the statements from October of last year to November, when our initial investigation was published, to the statements even last week when the NBA announced its findings, and even some of the statements today. People believed that under no circumstances, even after a year and however many players spoke out, sponsors left, that he would never relent. And so there is disbelief. I've had people message me, I think I'm not alone, that they're in tears of joy, but that they'd never thought that they would see this day.
I'll tell you what, I think there was a lot of surprise that he did relent, but there was public pressure, which we've talked about. LeBron James tweeting on his podcast. Also a lot of private pressure on Robert Sarver behind the scenes. We heard PayPal, but there were a lot of other league sponsors and team sponsors that were lining up to pull away from the Suns and not be publicly associated with them. There was also the pressure applied by other owners and Adam Silver behind the scenes. Adam Silver is obviously a very good at applying pressure when needed to be and facilitating these types of conversations and discussions to get to this place. I think in the statement, the most important thing that he said is, I don't want to be a distraction to the Suns and the Mercury. Now, he certainly didn't really own his culpability in this. He didn't own his actions or words as Zach outlined, but he did recognize that he had become a distraction and, frankly, it's bad for business. It became very bad for the league business, for the Suns business, and it's interesting to me, having covered this in 2014, when this happened immediately, that I was wondering if the same thing would happen with this over the course of time, because there was, as we pointed out, no smoking gun. There wasn't a tape like there was with Donald Sterling. But we've ended in the same place with a voluntary sale. The owners never had to vote Donald Sterling out. Shelley Sterling sold the team. Robert Sarver is going to sell this team. And this is a really important point. He gets to decide who he sells it to. So anybody you hear as a potential owner, there's going to be a lot of interest in this team. Could be $3 billion, $4 billion valuation. He gets to decide who he sells to, just like Shelley Sterling decided to sell to Steve Ballmer. There were a lot of other candidates, but somebody, there's been a few names that you'll hear: Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, Robert Iger, former CEO of Disney, Lorraine Jobs, who's a minority owner of the Washington Wizards as well, and Larry Ellison. These are big names that are out there. There's going to be a lot more names that you'll hear over the coming days and months. But my expectation is there will be an outside owner who comes in to buy the Suns, and it will take a couple of months at least. But Robert Sarver controls this process.
Well, but in the interim, we're seeing players. Yes, we heard from LeBron James in recent days, but we saw him tweet today that he was proud to be a part of a league that invokes this sort of change. I'm proud to be a part of a league committed to progress, he said, Zach.
Yeah, and honestly, to Baxter's point, all along throughout this process, I kept on hearing from people in and around the Suns saying, this guy is so stubborn that he is going to dig in and he is going to just run this out. He's going to wait for the noise to quiet down. And even when the investigative report was released last week, I kept hearing, well, I don't know if this is going to happen. He's just going to wait it out, wait it out, wait it out. And starting with LeBron's tweet, and then I think when Chris Paul tweeted, Chris Paul is the star of the Phoenix Suns along with Devin Booker. He didn't just tweet some sort of general discontent. He said specifically the sanctions did not go far enough. And I think that tweet really started to kickstart both privately and publicly, then the Players Association, then Draymond. But if I had to go back and pinpoint one, it was Chris Paul being specific and precise. The one-year ban was not enough. And I think it would have kept building media days in 8 days, 9 days, whatever. And I think there was a sense that the tidal wave is not going to stop.
Let me say this about your report, and it was amazing, and kudos to you for not only taking, there was a lot of heat, there was a lot of work that went into that, so I definitely want to compliment you on that, Baxter, but I have known this for 15 years. I have known all of this stuff. I have had plenty of friends, former friends, and I'm not going to call out any names, that would tell us stories about him coming in, and they were like, oh, you should know about this. And so you would hear these things for a decade, and then all of a sudden you would hear these reports. That's why Adam Silver was like, he was shocked and appalled when he heard some of these things, but then he found out that the players weren't that shocked because they knew it. But there was nothing that you can do. And even the people inside the organization, when they hear this stuff, they're like, wait, this man's going to be back here in a year? And that's what we got to worry about? Him coming back here, possibly coming after vengeance? And there's no other place in the world where you can behave like this in the workplace. It doesn't matter if you're at the top of Amazon, Disney, it doesn't matter. If you behave like this, you will not have a job. And so this was the only place, and I'm glad that the community of the NBA worked together to take out what was negative and something that shouldn't be here.
In the organization, in the hours and days after the NBA's report was released, the message was, we need to move on. We need to turn the page, move on to the next chapter. And I talked to staffers who said, how can we move on? He remains the owner. There is a long list of behavior exhibited in this report. This person is going to return. How can we move on? And they would also say, I know it was reflected in the statement that I read earlier from a current staffer, that there were senior executives who were culpable in this type of behavior in the environment there. And those people remain. How can we move on and turn the page and move on to a new chapter when these people are here?
Well, the process of moving on, it begins now with Robert Sarver beginning the process to sell the Suns. We will continue to cover that with our Bobby Marks and senior insider Adrian Wojnarowski joining us in just a little bit. But Richard, since you want everyone to match your energy, guess who else is joining the show today?
Who else is here?
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Whoa! We got the best player in the world is coming?
A little bit, the Greek freak.